everyone, my name is Charlotte and welcome back to another episode of Lorong Product. Okay, today I'm greeted with a very special guest because he's one of our friends, right? And today we're also here with my co-host, Advait.
Hello.
Okay, so for today, we have a really special episode because we have Aarav here today. But don't let the student part of him fool you, okay? Because this guy is cracked, okay? This guy has already worked on AI solutions with the Bhutan government, and he's already interned with VC-backed startups, and is the co-founder of a startup called Evalumate. So what I really love about his journey is that it is incredibly inspiring. And you guys will see that in the episode because he's turned messy problems into product solutions, thinking about users, trade-offs, and impacts, which is basically product management. So in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to go from idea to product and how data and AI actually influence product decisions and the lessons he's picked up as a founder that you guys as product managers can definitely steal. So Aarav, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, thank you so much for the amazing introduction. Glad to be here. It's an honor, man. Yeah, thank you.
All right. So I'm Aarav Gupta, here to BZA. I basically was born and raised in Mumbai, India, and I really found my passion for data. That's why I'm doing business analytics because of my dad. So he started his real estate analytics company in 2017, and I kind of got like a startup school from him itself, like attending his calls, just sitting in the background and stuff like that, really just being around him. He should tell me a lot about what he's doing as well, unlike stereotypical Indian parents, right? He should just tell me about what he's doing and stuff like that, right? Which used to be great. And I really understood, right, through him and built my passion for one, data, and two, entrepreneurship, right? So that's what really started me off. Then I had like a kind of different trajectory. In EdTech. So I started off with something called Titan Tuitions, which was just me and a group of friends. We used to be senior students, and we just, I think so, finished our 10th grade, and we wanted to, build something. So we just made a tuition company, and we used to teach our juniors. And after that, in a sense, we went on to build Evalumate, as you said, after as a extension to that, and here we are. Other than that, as an introduction, I love to scuba dive. One of my absolute favorite things to do, right? After the Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara movie, yes. Right? And other than that, play table tennis as well.
Okay.
And for CCAs, right? Right now, I am in the NUS Business Analytics Consulting team as a senior analyst. So as a part of that, I'm working on, I'm basically working on a project with Nexus Homes, where we're looking at different data sets and trying to really, come up with a model using previous data on how we can predict the price of a particular home, right? Using images and stuff like that. So image processing pipelines and stuff like that, we are actually building for that. So that's what I'm doing at NUS right now as senior analyst. So that's my CCA.
Okay, then maybe we move on to a little icebreaker question. So one icebreaker question is, if you could improve anything about an app that you use regularly, what would you improve?
Right. Okay. I think that, yes, I have one exact thing in mind, and it's LinkedIn. Right?
Okay.
So I'm part of Block 71, right? And I go to a lot of these networking events, and I cannot justify having my QR code on my home screen because that's just depressing. I have my parents' picture on my home screen, and so what actually is so unintuitive about LinkedIn's app is that I need to actually click on the search option, and then the QR code pops up in the search bar itself. And I think so every single time I have done this in front of anybody, either I have complained about it or the other person has complained about it to me, right? So I think so if that can be made a more intuitive way, right, where I can show the QR code in a networking event more easily, right? Absolutely amazing. I think that's something I would really change.
Okay, so now that our listeners know you well enough, let's dive deep into your journey.
Okay, Aarav, you have had an incredible journey. Let's just put it like that. You had an incredible journey, academics aside. Let's come to entrepreneurship. Yes. You mentioned Evalumate. Now, could you give our viewers a brief introduction of what Evalumate exactly is?
Yes, so I'll give you all a brief story about what is happening, right? Okay, so firstly, an introduction. Evalumate is an AI, curriculum-based AI grader where we focus on the niche of IGCSE and A-levels international curriculums, right? Which is basically the CAIE boards, because we feel like that niche has a higher willingness to pay. That's one. And there's nobody in that market up till now. So the reason why we're doing curriculum-based grading is because and that's where I will come to the story about where I started Evalumate in the first place. So I started with Titan tuitions. I started my introduction, right? So in Titan tuitions, I used to have one student. I used to have three students, and I used to be correcting their physics, chemistry, and math papers, right? I used to teach these three subjects. Now, what I used to think is that when I'm correcting physics, what am I looking for in a person's answer? I'm looking for the 3 points that are in the mark scheme. So literally what I'm doing is so manual, right, that it doesn't need me to do it. Like, it's not nothing that is, really creative from my end.
Definitely.
That is being needed for this. Let's say maths. I'm looking at one number and I'm just taking, right? Chemistry as well, right? So these things can be automated to a certain level, and then ChatGPT 4.0 dropped, right? This can be done using an AI model, right? Which can be fine-tuned, right? So I was like, I have to solve for this. I'm spending over 3 to 4 hours of my time on this manual work that I can eliminate. And that's why I started Evalumate. So I called up one of the best coders I know, which is my co-founder, which is Sahil. Right? I just told him the idea. We brought on one of my tuition teacher itself. He's like, I'm completely in. Right? Wow. He said that, okay, yes, I'm agreed to invest initially as well in the product as well. I have the validation as well. I was like, let's just get into it.
Wow.
Right? So that was like, in the sense, how I started Evalumate in the first place. Wow. Right? Just because there was a personal problem, and I felt like, okay, I really need to solve this.
Wow. What a supportive teacher, first of all, to actually come in and invest also into the idea. I wanted to ask, like, usually when people have ideas, it starts as just like a school venture and people kind of drop it there. But you've come to uni and you've actually taken it up as a personal venture as well. So how do you go about doing that? And also, I also want to ask, you're an SOC, the VIP grant awardee. Right. And how has that helped you? What are the resources that's given you? And how have you utilized that grant money to further scale it?
Right. So I feel like I think so the two questions tie in, right? When it becomes from a school project to a venture is actually certain milestones that you reach, right? And one of the biggest milestones that really made it real for me, right, was first when I got real validation from my tuition teacher, who is probably the largest tuition company in Mumbai, right? And second was the VIP grant. I was able to sell a group of SOC professors that I can build this product, and we are at a certain level, right, when it comes to building this product, right? So certain milestones I was able to reach, right? Whether it was my first pilot, whether it was my first, like the VIP grant itself, right? Which made it really real for me over a school project. And these milestones can be so simple, right? For example, if you and your friend or you and your co-founder, right, you get certain amount of validation, one milestone can be just registering the company.
Right.
Exactly. And a very, very funny thing that actually one of the people that we worked with, my co-founder has worked with, right? He works on these OTT apps as well, right? So he basically was talking to one of his employers, and the employer said that if you register a company, you're going to spend more money closing it down. So in that fight itself, I want to continue with this and actually move forward with it. You get what I mean? So like that is inbuilt in me. Like, okay, that these things, if I do these things, I will be forced to stay consistent with Evalumate, and that's what makes it real for me.
So basically, ticking like small boxes.
Small boxes.
Those
exactly.
boxes make sure you stay in the process.
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
And what about the SOC grant? Like,
yes.
How did you utilize that?
So the VIP SOC grant, right? Mainly, firstly, it was used into API expenses, AWS costs, right? When you're hosting a web app, right, you're looking at expenses, in terms of AWS, and of course, testing a lot of papers with huge number of tuition teachers as well, right? So those expenses, it always helps with that. Secondly, my co-founder, we are both full-time students, right? So it gives us the bandwidth to actually experiment with freelancers,
Okay.
right? You know, that, which is amazing, right? For example, to help with the bandwidth of my co-founder, let's say he's working on something or the other, we can bring on a coder, right? That can actually just, you know, help with some of the manual stuff, right? At the same time, if I'm not able to make cold calls every single day, right? I can, you know, simply, you know, get somebody a marketing intern, right? And, you know, help with that. So basically, it's money that I can use, and who will say no to money, right? In the sense, it's just something that, if used correctly, and of course not exploiting what NUS is given in other ways, right? Which is very important. It has to be used for Evalumate and stuff like that. So you can really make progress with the VIP grant. And more than that as well, the VIP grant made me meet one of the first people, right, that started video editing technology, which is Mojave technology, which is Pete Kellogg, which is my mentor at VIP. And he doesn't have a lot of experience in Singapore itself. He lives in Singapore now. But his advice when it came to cold calls in Singapore, right, his advice when it came to actually one of the main problems that I felt, and probably because we are a little bit slow in Evalumate, how he cleared that for me, right? The mentorship that you get from the mentors that are there, right, in VIP is absolutely amazing, right? So these are like small things that, yes, they make a huge difference in trying to take your startup forward.
Okay. Actually, I'm really curious because you said that you guys actually hire freelancers, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm curious, how big is the actual team?
Right now itself, we have 2 freelancers. One is one tech guy that is helping Sahil with the tech work, and one is a girl in Mumbai who's helping me with cold calls and stuff like that, right? Because I'm making some in Singapore and she's making in Mumbai. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lovely.
Okay.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think also really good to share because so many of our viewers can now also try applying for the VIP grant.
100%, yes.
And if their luck has it right, then they can also
Yeah.
be following your footsteps.
Yeah.
You know, I wanna pivot a little bit into product management and something a little bit more product oriented.
Okay.
When I saw the demo of Evalumate, there was one feature that really stuck out to me.
Yes.
And that was the extension of WhatsApp and Google Classrooms
Yes.
that you have implemented into your product.
Yes.
Now, that is something I've not seen before.
Right.
And I think it's something that is so efficient and so amazing for your product.
Right.
Talk me through how you thought about that and
Right.
how it's helped you and the product itself.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know if you remember correctly, right?
Right.
We had this conversation very, like it's the last semester or something like that, right? And you made me realize that the number one thing is you want to reduce friction.
Right.
For a particular tuition teacher to get onboarded to your platform, right? So, what is the single place where where tuition teachers exist right now, right? Let's say your tuitions, my tuitions, yours, right? If you've taken, like I used to take, and there used to be one WhatsApp group, right? Where the tuition teacher used to send an assignment, and I used to send the assignment back to the tuition teacher to correct it, right? What if from that WhatsApp itself, a teacher can just forward
Right.
all of the assignments to a WhatsApp bot, right? Or something or the other that can directly correct, right? Give a link for the teacher to, of course, just go through it, and then give a PDF for them to give it back to, corrected PDF for them to give it back to your student.
Right.
Your initial hurdle or initial hindrance to actually just start using it becomes zero. And that becomes easiest onboarding, right? You don't need to send anybody a login link where you will create an account and then you have to upload papers and then do XYZ and then they will use it. Teachers don't have that much patience, and I've experienced this as well, right? You have to make it easier. This goes for anything and everything, right? You have to make it easier to just like in the sense give it to your customer in the first place. And and then after I had a conversation with him, I called up 5 of my tuition teachers and I told them, would this be better for you? And yes, they said that it would be a much better addition.
Oh, lovely. That is a good extension. I want to stick on to product management itself, and I want to ask you, if you could rewind back when you first started Evalumate, or maybe when you first started taking it seriously,
right?
Where you thought, okay, this I can actually build out as a company,
right?
From a product management point of view, what's a mindset that you would have adapted back then that would have helped you scale Evalumate a little differently, or maybe would have made you stop making a few mistakes that you would have made a little earlier?
Yes, and yes, this question Yeah, it's a great question because I think so. I mean, it's valuable to everybody, right? Like for my mistake, what I feel like, what I can provide value is that you, especially as a builder, as somebody who codes as well, we need to stop overbuilding, right? We need to stop assuming that we know what the customer is doing or what wants to be doing.
Okay.
Why don't you pick up the phone, call them, ask them, and then make an assumption? Don't even make an assumption. You have the fact with you, them, right? So the point is that, and this is what I was. In fact, I've still not, become completely prone to this. My co-founder was explaining yesterday, right? That okay, no, don't tell me to change this feature until you know that okay, you have to actually change this feature from the consumers itself.
Okay.
Right. So that is one, I think so, one of the biggest problems when it comes to engineers or builders or coders, right? That they think that, oh, I can optimize this. I can reduce the time from 5 seconds to 2 seconds, spend a month on it, and it will lead to a big kind of effect to the user. The user probably doesn't even care about that amount of time.
Exactly.
Right? So you really want to like make sure the user cares about it, and then and only then take that action. And I feel like it should be, in a sense, yeah, okay, probably I've been following YC for the longest time ever, and they keep on saying this ship. But you keep on thinking, okay, I want to optimize this, right? So the main thing is that ship, get feedback, iterate. Like you just have to fail fast and then move forward. That's it. Yeah.
Lovely. I think so. From just to wrap it all up, instead of assuming, make that call, talk to your consumers first, and when you have the facts,
that's it.
Go ahead and iterate your product.
Just try to sell always.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Aarav. That's lovely. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Aarav, now let's move into the internship that you did last time. Okay, so we know that you did an internship at Nano BI, but can you explain to us like what actually the company does?
Yeah. So my internship, first of all, was under the CTO, Dr. Jaya Prakash. Very, cracked individual in the first place, right? The NIOBI itself is basically, I would say, a palantir for banking and financial services industry.
Okay.
So they basically look at what banks want. They look at what insurance companies want, right? They look at all these BFSI industries, and they solve solutions custom made to them, right? Which are large contract and it's completely B2B, right? So they're looking at agentic AI solutions. They're looking at, government solutions as well, right? Which is about my internship as well over there, right? So that's basically what they do.
Okay, then maybe could you elaborate a little bit more on the kinds of problems that they solve for their clients?
Of course, yes. So why don't I take an example of myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my internship, actually we were working with the Bhutan government. So the co-founder itself is actually good friends and good colleagues with the finance minister of Bhutan.
Wow.
And the finance minister was like, my government officials, they take too much time, right? Just going through the document to ask particular questions, because you're looking at a huge paper-based system over there right now currently, right? So reading the entire thing completely, in a language like this is Dzongkha, which is the Bhutan national language. Of course, they know it, right? But reading everything and then making particular analysis and stuff like that, and then asking questions like trying to answer the questions that they have in their mind takes a lot of time. Right. So the main thing that they wanted to do was to reduce an amount of time, and they were like, I'm assuming, I don't know, but like in a sense, he basically told Jaya Prakash sir, right, to solve it for him.
Okay.
And I was lucky actually to be working on the first iterations of actually solving for this kind of problem along with the CTO's office, right? So the interesting thing about this is, in my internship, that the biggest challenge was their language, which is Dzongkha. There is no AI model, right, or RAG framework that is trained on Dzongkha.
Oh, lovely.
So how can I actually make a RAG framework on it, right, when I can't even understand the language in the first place?
Wow.
Right? Now you have for Hindi, you have Sarvam, right, and different AI models that are coming up, right? You have for English, of course, all of the models, right? French as well. But Dzongkha is a very, very niche language with no models yet, right? So how do we actually solve for that? So the first solution that I was given was just, translate all the documents to English and then use a RAG framework, which is I use Olama, right? To work on that, right? Actually to, read the document, embed it, make chunk it, embed it, and then, actually query it using cosine similarity, whatever, etc., right? And then give a response, right? And it worked well. But then you're looking at one more issue, right? Of course, I was given a dummy document. I cannot, I could access the actual documents, right? I mean, I'm still an intern. We cannot actually use, Google Translate and upload government documents on it because it's a security issue. You can't upload all of this to Google Translate,
Yeah.
right? In testing, it's fine. So how do you actually deal with that as well? And the other teams actually went to Bhutan beforehand, and the Nanobia itself had a Zonka to English translator inbuilt with them to do the work. So I got experience with working on that as well, right? Right, and also working like learning RAG from scratch, like regular government generation from scratch. Didn't know anything about it. Worked with Olama, right, and then went slowly up, like learning more about it, and then I was able to build a small front end and back end framework by the end of my tenure at Nano BI. So that they can probably use their better servers or whatever that they have to then ship it probably. So I was able to work on that pretty well.
Okay, that sounds so interesting. Oh my gosh. Like you had this opportunity to work with the Bhutan government.
Yes.
That's quite crazy.
That's actually insane.
Yeah. But I mean, I think rewinding a little bit, you talk a lot about REC, but I think for the layman terms out there,
Right.
like can you explain it to a typical like person who doesn't know about REC, who doesn't know what agentic AI is? Maybe you can elaborate more on these two terms.
Yeah. Agentic AI, I'll use, I think so, an overused, what do you call, analogy, which is refrigeration was invented, but the people that made most money was Coca-Cola, who used refrigeration to actually cool their drinks, right? So your AI models are actually the refrigerators in the first place. But agentic AI is actually taking that one, right, AI model and giving it one service, right? Giving it one thing to do, right? So like in the sense, let's say any kind of YC company, right? Cursor is agentic AI, is for coding, right? Now we have people coming up with agentic AI for designing microchips, right? Cursor for X, cursor for Y. If you looked at the last YC batch, I think so more than 70% was cursor for something else, right? Because agentic AI is literally, just building on top of models for certain functions. So that's what agentic AI is. For retrieval augmented generation RAG, it's as simple as using a document, right, to get certain information from that document and putting out an LLM on top of that in order to give a response. So it's like the information that you're getting from the LLM is not just based on anything. So that you're basically looking at lesser hallucinations, more based on that document itself, right? So we use RAG extensively in Evalumate because we want to make sure the feedback is what IGCSE expects.
Like the answer sheet.
Yes, exactly, right? So we basically use the textbooks of physics, chemistry, etc. to really make sure the feedback that we're giving is what IGCSE or these curriculums want. That's why it's curriculum-based AI corrections, right? So RAG is basically that.
Okay, cool. Okay, so now that we understand like what you did in a broader context, maybe we can dive a little bit deeper into what your day-to-day at the company was like. Yeah, maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
Sure. Okay. So this internship was online. This company is based in Bangalore, and I was in Mumbai at the time. So my day to day at the internship, I think so. Every single morning we used to have a stand up call at 9 a.m. Where I used to be reporting to my manager in the CTO's office. And on whatever work we worked on, like in the sense during the day, right? And then we used to think about like what are next functions we need to do, what do we need to implement next, right? And the good thing about Nano BI was that there was a lot of ownership on the table, right? You're given a task, and there was not a lot of dependency on other people, right? So I was given a task, and I had to like do it on my own terms to a certain level, right? So I had taken ownership, okay, that I'm going to be working on this, and then I had to do it, till a certain amount of time, and I got to spend actually a lot of time, randomly when Dr. Jayaprakash used to become free, right? He used to call us on a call,
Yeah.
right? And even like in this is a 15, 20, right, minutes that we used to get a day, I used to really learn a lot from him itself, right? How and this is what again reinforced ship. Do not assume, because every single conversation I had with him, he used to always have the government officials in the mind, right?
Okay.
That how will it be good for them, right? And he used to be like, I need to ask the finance minister, I need to ask whoever's on ground in Bhutan. They have a team that is working in Bhutan as well. I need to ask whoever's over there, like, will it actually be useful for them as well? So he also used to embody that in the best way, and that's why, of course, Nano BI is worth what it is right now, right? So yeah, that's what I got to learn a lot from him as well. So my day to day was basically just it should be pretty chill, right? 9 a.m. stand up, a few meetings here and there during the day, right? And then other than that, just working on the product itself and having ownership for whatever we have to do.
Okay.
If I could add, I think one key element to your journey has been mentorship. Like you mentioned, your dad,
Yes.
first off, then you had mentioned your VIP grant mentorship. So that's played a very crucial role for you.
Yeah.
And I think it's helped you a lot, hasn't it?
Yes, 100%. Like, I feel like in early in careers, like, really try to anybody. I mean, I'm talking as if I'm not, but like in the sense, yeah, mentors are like the number one thing. I think so. Somebody, I remember somebody saying that one thing you should do is really try to make best friends. If you're in NUS right now, right? Like, try to like really get close to your professors, because they can be amazing mentors, right? Because they've probably been in industry for so long and now they are teaching.
Right.
So like in the sense that is like, I think so. I mean, he said that is the biggest success metric that you have when you're in a university, right?
Okay.
But yeah, I think mentorships, like in a sense for me, mentors. I mean, since I of course take all of their advice and then of course make a decision as to what I have to listen or listen. That goes for everything. Yeah.
So to our viewers, that's a pro tip. Make sure you get as many mentors as you can before you graduate.
Why not, right? There's no harm.
Definitely.
Okay, maybe going back to the Nano BI internship that you did. So you mentioned quite a bit about having a lot of ownership over your projects and how you enjoyed that, right? So I'm just wondering about the learning curve that you had because of all this ownership that you had. Like, was it ever very steep? Like, you were thrown to figure out things on your own? And how do you deal with that? Yeah.
I think, I didn't know anything about RAG before I went into it, right? So the learning curve was of course steep. The point is that you have ChatGPT, right? And you have XYZ number of LLM models that can do crazy stuff, right? And I'll actually share an anecdote about, like, in the sense, something that surprised me right now with an AI LLM. But I literally just learned whatever I could through ChatGPT, reading documentation, which is amazing for Olama and stuff like that. And even though, yes, it took a bit of time, but then that's why NanoBI was so flexible about it, right? That they're giving you so in fact, the first task that was given to me was learn this.
Oh, wow.
Right. So they didn't expect anything in terms of actually knowing XYZ thing, right? Like they were like, okay, we think that you are a good fit for the company, you have a good cultural fit, and you have XYZ technical skills, and you can learn this fast, right? Just start learning and then implement, right? And I think so that I mean, in a sense, I didn't know anything beforehand, but I was able to successfully, take ownership and implement that for them.
Okay.
With the help of AI tools, yeah.
Okay, so this job actually was a remote job, right?
Yep.
Okay, so maybe I can ask a little bit more about that, like the nature of the work. What were some difficulties that you have to face because it's a remote job?
I think so. The difficulties were what comes with anything that's remote, right? Of course, it's like you're sitting alone in front of a computer on a study table, which is not ideal, right?
Yeah.
Of course, right? You want to be in the office, right? Doing like, just having fun, having lunch with your colleagues and stuff like that. And in the sense, I'm more for that, right?
Okay.
I need, like, in the sense, the physical interaction to be there to a certain level. So that was one big difficulty, right? But at the same time, I mean, in a sense, I have only 3 months in India with my parents and stuff like that. I'm not going to travel to Bangalore for that amount of time. I prefer to stay back at home and, work over there. And as long as the work is being done, I was like, okay, as long as I'm going to function well and I'm meeting the expectations, I'm fine with working online as well. But the main difficulty was what comes with every single remote work, right? That is just trying to be consistent with the work just because it's online, right? I try to maintain that motivation.
Right, despite the lack of physical interaction
Exactly.
with the
Yeah.
colleagues.
In a sense, everybody's working. You want to work with them,
Yeah,
right, on
yeah.
one thing. So it's
Be honest with us. Every time you're doing work, how many times did you switch your tab and go watch some YouTube?
Yeah. I mean, it's more than what you expect. Genuinely. Yeah. Just scroll Instagram on the side, a few reels. Yeah.
Okay, then maybe I can ask you a little bit more about how you secured this internship. Like when you went to interview for it, how much AI experience do you have? Or how much technical experience do you have going in? Yeah.
So this internship was as simple as using LinkedIn, right? Just, applying through that itself, right? I just applied through LinkedIn, right? Got an interview. It was not technical, as I said, right? Because they didn't expect anything from me in terms of technical expertise. They just wanted to know if I can learn or not, right? So it was just like, okay, you just try to basically and then I said, okay, one more thing I want to note. I didn't even only apply on LinkedIn. I also sent an email to the not the CTO itself, but somebody else who's a pretty high level at the company.
Yeah.
Right. I was able to source that email, and I was like, I want to work at this place. They seem pretty cool. And I just sent an email like that as well. And surprisingly, he replied. Somebody else replied from his team, right, who was my manager. And I was like, great, yes, I have an internship that I can work on, which has great work as well, right?
Okay.
So yeah. So it was so in the sense, they were not technical at all. They just wanted to know very simply what my experiences was. Whatever I said on my resume, whether I've actually done it or not, right? That is the most important thing, right? And yeah, that's about it. I was able to just speak my way through the interview.
Yeah, okay. Wow, okay. Actually, it's so amazing to hear that you went to cold email the guy. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing you found his email from LinkedIn, is that right? Or the website?
So yeah, I just went to the website. So they have their email over there, and in fact, I emailed both the CEO and I'm forgetting his position, but I think it was a financial officer, the CFO. And yeah, he didn't get back to me, but one of his team members did, and I had an interview scheduled.
Lovely.
Oh, okay. Also, just one round, then after that you were in.
Yeah, it was one round.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So maybe if we wrap up this whole segment about this Nano BI internship, maybe we can ask you if you were to pick one lesson, the biggest lesson that you took out of this internship that you think will impact you for the rest of your career, what would it be?
It will be the same thing that I learned from the CTO, that is ship fast, right? Customer is king, right? YC says it, Pete says it, right? My mentor, and my dad says it, right? Now, in the sense, if the customer wants something, right? You have to just listen to them. That in a sense, and of course, Mr. Dr. Jayaprakash says this, right? And that's what he embodied as well, right? So that is the main thing I think. So I took from this internship, and that I will 100% in the next foreseeable future implement 100% in Evalumate and beyond.
Okay.
Ship fast. That's it.
Okay, so it's always about putting the consumer and the customer first.
Yeah, unless you're Steve Jobs, then you just tell, you basically tell that this is what you want, right? Yeah.
Okay, then maybe for the viewers out there that's listening about your internship and they're really interested, what kind of person do you think is suited for this role, and what kind of person would thrive in this kind of role?
Yeah.
Whoever can learn fast, right? I think I was listening to a podcast from Vinod Kolsa on Nikhil Kamath called the WTF podcast, right? And he basically said that there is no point being a specialist in today's world, right? You have to be a generalist to a certain level. And that basically told me that he said that the skill you need to really learn is the skill to learn. That's it, right? And Vinod Kolsa is basically the founder of Kolsa Ventures, which is a huge venture capital company in the US. And he basically says that in a sense, and that makes complete sense, right? Today, probably, we saw SWEs only code, right? And we saw product managers only, talk to stakeholders and, manage the product itself. Now you're seeing that product managers and SW is becoming one role. right? Where they both code. In fact, most startups, even the designers code to a certain level, right? Because it becomes so easy to actually, ship code, write code, etc., etc. So just the skill to learn. That is, I think, the main thing that I would say to be successful in any kind of AI internship, right?
The same way you were inspired by Mr. Vinod on the podcast. We hope someone can watch this podcast today and get inspired by you.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing about your Nano BI internship. I think we've learned a lot from that.
Thank you.
All right, Aarav, let's move to something a little less serious.
Okay.
A little bit more fun.
Yes.
Welcome to Product Court. Now, this is a game segment that we have where we put one product on trial and our guest has 60 seconds to defend it.
Got it.
Charlotte and I will be your judges for today.
Yes.
And today, the product on trial is TikTok.
Of course.
Yes. And TikTok has been charged with algorithm-driven feeds which maximize short-term engagement, creator pressure, meaning essentially constantly pressurizing creators to post, which
Right.
could often lead to
Right,
burnout,
right.
and using heavy behavioral data to make decisions on their app.
Okay.
So, before the defense begins and before everything starts, let's just be clear. TikTok's a social media app. The main goal is engagement and content creation.
Right.
So, Aarav, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
No, but are you like ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
You have 1 minute, and your 1 minute starts now. Go.
Firstly, right, algorithm-driven feeds,
Yeah.
right? I have to defend it because that is the best way
Okay.
to actually get a consumer's feedback in TikTok's case. And as I said, the entire theme for this product was consumer, right? Ship, right? If a consumer likes the content and they share it, right? In fact, I was looking at Alex Hormozis, if you're familiar with him, right? He basically says that your first reel is just given to the 3 people around you, and then it is shared around in that group, right? So the best way to actually determine if a consumer is for it or against it is through the algorithm feed. So consumer, of course I'm for it. For the creator pressure,
8 seconds out of 8 seconds.
okay, for the creator pressure, I would say the best way is that if a creator wants to earn money through the app, they have to work hard, right? So okay, but the timer is up.
No, but you know what? You're our guest. You get like 15 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, creator pressure, I would say is that if you're looking to really build a career through it,
Right.
and you have to understand how the algorithm works. So you can't really form an excuse by saying that they're pressuring you to post more and more, right?
Okay.
So that's not TikTok's fault. And then there are examples against it, right? For example, a lot of companies, YouTubers, Mark Rober, Mr. Beast, they post TikToks that are once in a week, a month, and they still get amazing engagement because again, algorithm driven content. Yeah.
Okay. You went a little over time there, but it's fine.
A little bit.
A little bit.
I have to work on my concising. Yeah.
Maybe we can use an AI tool for that.
not while I speak as well. Otherwise, I'm going to be an AI over here instead of me.
Okay, now to quickly wrap it up, your answer is quick. Okay, 3 questions, and we'll wrap this entire product up. Quick, just yes or no. Okay.
Okay.
Would you build TikTok from scratch in 2026 with the same attention growth model?
100%, because that's the first way you get a consumer's whether a consumer likes the content or not, right?
Okay.
So still, yes, attention first growth.
Okay, and last but not least, is TikTok's For You algorithm a discovery breakthrough or is it an addiction engine?
I feel like it is a discovery breakthrough because again, right, the customer, right, it is built for the customer. If a customer likes the reel, right, they are given more of that reel, and that's why it's a better product for the customer itself, right? So yeah, I'm for that as well.
Okay, I think both Charlotte and I have heard enough. The court has decided that TikTok is found not guilty. Congratulations, Aarav, you've done it. All right, Aarav, throughout this entire conversation, we've really traced your journey from academics to early exposure to entrepreneurship to even building Evalumate. And so I think here comes the point where we just want to wrap it all up for all our viewers. And that final question I'm going to ask you is, if you had to give students one practical checklist or a mental framework to follow so that they can optimize to, as you mentioned, become a user-first builder, what would that be?
Right. So I think one thing that all founders to a certain level should have is something that, I mean, it's probably not the best term for it, but what I call it is a panic mindset, right? If your product is actually good enough, right, that it can make money. In fact, YC says that if you're in a space that has no competitors, it's actually bad because probably there's nobody wanting to actually buy the product in the first place, right? There will be somebody or the other who's building it, who's probably working harder than you, or probably has more resources than you. Then how do you beat them? That needs to always link in your brain, and you to work out of the fright that somebody else will do it before you, right? And I feel like that is something. It's a bit extreme, of course, yes, right? But it's a founder's life. You choose to be in it, you don't choose to be in it, right? So that mindset is something that you should take. And of course, as I mentioned throughout the podcast, product like customer, fail fast. That's, I think, so what I would really one thing that I would say. And I would also like to give like one last thing as well. It's never been easier to become a founder, right? If anybody, like for anybody watching, right, you can just buy $30 subscription for Cloud Code Pro, right? Just buy it, spend that initial investment, talk to even 15 of your friends, tell them what makes your life suck, right? As simple as that. You probably see a pattern in that much amount of time, right? Tell them how you would like me to solve the problem. Give that to Cloud Code, right? With certain features that you want to, include in that product. Cloud Code will give you the entire thing built out. Pick up the phone and start calling your customers.
Lovely.
You probably in a month will have customers that are paying for your product already. It's never easier than that, I think. So yeah, that is one thing that it's never been easy to be a founder. So yeah, that's all from me.
Lovely. I think that's the best way to close the episode. Aarav, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
It was a great podcast. I absolutely enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yes, and we enjoyed it a lot too. I think hearing about your journey really showed us that if you stick to something that's your passion, you can really convert it into something that could help others as well. And from a product management point of view, also, we really got to know how to iterate and improvise on certain stuff that might not go well in your product, but then you can always go ahead and later on fix that. Thank you everyone for joining us today. For listeners who'd like to connect with Aarav, you can find him on LinkedIn, and please do make sure to follow our socials and check out our other episodes right over here. Thank you so much for joining us.